Hello Pokemon trainers, welcome back to another Pokemon TCG Pocket video here on iStarly TV. So a brand new set has just released in TCG Pocket. It's called Mythical Island. It gives us, I think in the game it said like 68 new cards or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong. I heard it was 80 new cards, something along those lines. But either way, a bunch of new cards have been added to TCG Pocket. There's a lot to talk about, but for this video, I just wanted to focus on 3 new decks that we can build with the release of this new set. So I have 3 decks that I've kind of thrown together that I think can be really fun and exciting with the new set. There's a lot of really exciting new cards, but what I wanted to focus on with this video is new decks. So there's a lot of like new Pokemon that are added that you can play in older decks. Like Mew EX is extremely exciting and you can play it in Mewtwo decks. There's a new Rapidash that you could play in Blaine decks. There's a new Gyarados EX that you could play in Misty decks. But I didn't want to focus on those because, again, those are decks that we already know about. We already know about Misty. We already know about Blaine. We already know about Mewtwo EX, right? So I wanted to try brand new archetypes that could be fun. And I have one deck that I think is probably already the talk of the town, so everyone has already figured it out. It's probably the new broken deck of the format. And then a couple other decks that I made that are really unique and very interesting and also really cool. So let's go ahead and start with the first deck that I have here. This is a Celebi Serperior deck. I thought of this deck when I played because there's a lot of new missions that you can play, and in the missions there's a deck just like this, and I got destroyed by it several times because I didn't realize exactly what was going on. I was multitasking, so I wasn't exactly paying attention. I was like, why is this Celebi doing 400 damage to me? And this is why. So I do believe this will be the new deck of the format. People are already talking about how broken it is. I think things will probably eventually settle, but I do think this is going to be a new mainstay in the format along the lines of Mewtwo EX and Pikachu EX and Charizard EX. I guess that's the beauty of it. Even if this deck ends up being super, super powerful and potentially broken, it can be, kept in check by fire decks like Charizard EX or even Blaine decks. So either way, here's the deck. Celebi EX has powerful bloom, 2 energy, and you flip a coin for each energy attached to it, and it does 50 damage for each heads. On the front side, that is not very good. However, let's skip ahead to right there. You can see Serperior. Serperior's Pokemon power or ability is Jungle Totem. Each grass energy attached to your grass Pokemon provides 2 grass energy. So when you have Serperior in play, every single grass energy on Celebi counts as 2. So basically, if you have 3 grass energy on Celebi, you flip 6 coins. So you can do as much as 300 damage. Obviously, that's rarely going to happen. It's extremely rare that you will get 6 heads. However, in a lot of cases, all you need is 2 out of 6 of those to be heads, or 3 out of 6. At which point, if you get 3 heads, that's 150 damage. You're killing everything from Mewtwo and lower, right? So the point is, this is extremely powerful, and it's capable of doing just massive, massive amounts of damage. Serperior also counts itself for the ability, so Solar Beam requires 4 energy for 70 damage, which is really bad, but with its ability, you only need 2 energy on your Serperior in order to do 70, which is still not amazing, but it's something. And then I have 1 copy of Dhelmise in this deck. I wanted just another basic Pokemon. Dhelmise is a good wall. People were comparing this to the non-EX Lapras in the previous set, which it's basically the same thing except grass rather than water. Of course, Dhelmise is better though because of Serperior. With Serperior in play, all you need is 2 grass energies on Dhelmise to do 90 damage, which is really, really powerful. And again, Dhelmise has 100 HP, which can stall out against some decks, let you set up your Celebis, set up your Serperiors, and just go from there. But my point with all of these decks, these are just my interpretations of them. Feel free if you want to base, if you see a deck you like in this video, feel free to make your own changes. Absolutely make the deck your own. I think every Celebi Serperior deck obviously is going to have 2 Celebi, 2 Snivy, 2 Servine, 2 Serperior. From there, there's a lot of freedom with what you can do. but I just thought Dhelmise is a good, just extra basic Pokemon to set up, and it can potentially do a lot of damage itself. As far as the trainers, this is a deck where you get to play Erica. Sorry, before I go to that, I also want to just talking about the other Pokemon in the deck. I think some people want to play like Executor EX or the new Executor in this deck, or even something like Lilligant, which also kind of combos with it. But I think the more those Pokemon evolve, and I don't think, since you're trying to get a stage 2 on the Serperior, I don't think you want too many Pokemon that evolve. In my opinion, for this deck to be super streamlined, I think just having the Serperior evolutionary line is ideal, and then the rest of your Pokemon should be basics. This is reminiscent of the Mewtwo EX deck, where you have a super strong EX, and then you have a stage 2 evolutionary line that you're trying to get to in order to set up. I think if you play like other grass Pokemon that evolve, it just oversaturates the deck. But again, play it how you want. You know, if you want to play some Executors, if you want to play some Lilligants, go ahead, and they do work really nicely. It's just more things have to align for that to work well. Anyways, we've got Erica, heal 50 from one of your grass Pokemon. All of the Pokemon in this deck are grass. I think the fact that Erica can be played in this deck, it gives this deck an angle that Mewtwo EX doesn't have. Like, again, I think this deck is very comparable to the Mewtwo EX deck, and just being able to heal off 50 damage like early-ish game, it just lets you survive so much longer. Obviously, healing 50 is not going to be, great in the later stages of the game where everyone's capable of doing like 150 damage, like when Mewtwo is fully set up or Charizard is fully set up. But in the earlier stages of the game where you're not getting attacked by EX Pokemon, this is great. This is so good, being able to heal off a lot of damage from your Pokemon. It lets your Snivies stay alive so that you can evolve them, etc. Then I have one copy of Sabrina. I think Sabrina is good in this deck as well. I mean, it's always good, ideally. And as far as the numbers here for the trainers, again, feel free to swap these however you want. If there's another trainer or support that you think would be good in this deck, feel free to swap it in or out. I do think 2 Pokeballs and 2 Professor's Research, unsurprisingly, is the standard. We really want to make sure we get that Celebi and we get that Snivy going. And so Pokeball, lets you find those, which is great. And then Research helps you dig towards Serperior and Servine. 1 copy of Potion, just, stacking with the Erica, it lets you heal even more damage. This is another card that you could possibly switch for something else. I think that's fine either way, but I thought Potion was good. X-Speed is nice because Celebi only has 1 retreat cost, and then Snivy and Servine have also 1. So, like, if you have to lead with Snivy and then you want to switch into your Celebi later, like if you only draw Snivy in the beginning, you can easily swap that out with the X speed. And then Serperior and Dhelmise only have 2 retreat costs, so using an X speed on one of those is not the end of the world, or even 2 X speeds. And then I have 1 copy of Leaf. Again, those numbers can be swapped around, but the core of this deck is, I think, that top row. I guess Dhelmise could be swapped out if you want, but I think Celebi, Snivy, Servine, Serperior, Erica, Pokeball, and Research are all of the cards that you definitely want 2 of. And then from there, you can totally just kind of, do your own thing and swap in or out whatever else you want. So here it is. Again, I do think this is the breakout deck of this new set. This is going to be a very powerful deck. You're going to play against it a lot, unfortunately, and they're going to do like 600 damage to you out of nowhere. Sometimes. Of course, it relies on coin flips, but just being able to flip so many coins just removes that luck factor, because if they flip 8 coins, all they need is like 2 of those to do 100 damage, or 3 of those to do 150 damage. And that's a lot of damage, so be scared of this deck. Try to get those fire decks ready just in case. Alright, my next deck is a little bit of a weird one. This is Druddigon Ninja, or Druddigon Greninja. I saw the Druddigon card and I thought it looked really cool. The fact that you can play water and fire in the same deck is really cool. So I wanted to base a deck around Druddigon. In all honesty, fire Pokemon and water Pokemon, unsurprisingly, kind of don't really mix. And by that I mean, what they tend to do typically don't really mix well together. Like fire Pokemon typically require kind of a lot of fire energies, and then you have to discard a lot of those energies, whereas water Pokemon are more about like, you know, you can put energies on them. I mean, water Pokemon are a little more diverse, but fire Pokemon are, you know, a little more rigid with what they do. But I still wanted to try it. It is possible you could play a Druddigon deck with just Greninja with just water Pokemon and still have fire energies in your deck, or opposite, play a Druddigon deck with fire Pokemon and then just put some water energies in this deck. But I just wanted to try. I thought to myself, what's a solid water Pokemon, and then also what's a fire Pokemon that doesn't require so many fire energies on it. And this is what I settled on. So Druddigon, 100 HP, 90 damage for Dragon Claw with a fire, water, and colorless energy. So pretty specific. But its Pokemon ability is kind of why I wanted to build around this. If it takes damage from an attack of the opponent Pokemon, sorry, I read that weird. If it takes damage from the attack of an opponent's Pokemon, then it does 20 damage to that Pokemon. So it just racks up damage. It also has 100 HP, which is pretty good in the early game. Even though you have to get 3 energies on it, you can sometimes like stall it out, like, you know, you have this in play and then they're damaging you a little bit at a time, but they're also taking damage. And then maybe later on, once you evolve your Greninja, you can just pick off their Pokemon with the Water Shuriken. So that's why I like this, because Rough Skin and Water Shuriken combo pretty nicely together. Druddigon's actually kind of like a newer version of Poliwrath. Poliwrath is very similar. It has an ability that does 20 damage when it takes damage, but Poliwrath has 150 HP, which is insane. However, of course, Poliwrath is a stage 2, so the fact that Druddigon's a basic really made me want to build around it. And then again, there's the Greninja line. The goal here is to evolve into Greninja so that you can use Water Shuriken to kind of pick off Pokemon that have taken Rough Skin damage. And then if you ever switch into Greninja, 60 damage from Mist Slash, especially complemented off of that Water Shuriken, can kill things, you know, finish things off pretty nicely. Finally, we have the Salazzle line. I only have 1 copy of each just because I didn't want to oversaturate the deck too much. And I did want to try it. Again, Druddigon, like, there's so many ways you could go with it, like I explained, so feel free to kind of swap these numbers around if you feel the need, or if you want to try other fire Pokemon, or even just like normal or water Pokemon in the deck. You know, I thought about something like Articuno EX, or even basic Articuno, or even basic Moltres, but again, it's up to you. There's so many routes you could go, but importantly here, because I only have 1 copy of each of the Salandit line, I chose to go for the Mewtwo, the older version of Salandit that is in the genetic Apex packs, rather than the new Salandit. The new Salandit is 1 colorless energy, it does 10 damage, but if the opponent is poisoned, it does 50 damage. However, because the only way to poison Pokemon in our deck is Salazzle, and we only have 1 copy of Salazzle, there's never a situation where we would have Salandit in play and the opponent would be poisoned. So because of that, I decided to go for the original Salandit, and then Salazzle, it does 30 damage and poisons the enemy. It's kind of similar to Weezing in a way. I mean, Weezing is better, but, you know, it has 1 retreat cost, which is pretty nice as well. And that's something else I love about this deck, is that the retreat costs are so low. Druddigon has 2, but, you know, with X speed, you can kind of mitigate that. And then for the trainers, I think there's a lot of ways you could go. Obviously, Pokeball and Professor's Research are mainstays. X speed is good. I really like Giovanni just to rack up that damage. Maybe, you know, Giovanni, maybe, because I guess we're doing damage in a lot of cases without attacks. So maybe you don't really need Giovanni. Maybe 2 potions is good. I actually think, now that I'm thinking about it, I really like Potion in this Druddigon deck. Potion and Blue. Blue is the new support card that reduces the damage you take in the next turn by 10. So with Blue and Potion, it can help your Druddigon stay alive longer and just keep racking up that rough skin damage. So now that I think about it, I might actually personally change it to 2 potions and 2 blues, and then maybe make some cuts. Maybe cut Sabrina. I think Sabrina's another one that we could cut, and then maybe trim down on the Giovannis. But like I always say, Pokeball and Professor's Research are pretty much a given in the deck. And like I also say, you know, the core of this deck is just Druddigon, and I think Greninja works really well with it. From there, feel free to make some changes as you wish. But I've tried this deck out, and surprisingly, I've won a few games already with it. It's been pretty fun. even if you have to lead with Druddigon, you know, you have to set up the 3 energies on it. But like I said, with Rough Skin, you just kind of rack up damage over time, and then maybe that lets you set up a Greninja on the bench, which can just clean up at the end. So yeah, this deck has been a lot of fun. And again, I think mixing fire and water Pokemon in the same deck, it feels wrong, but it's been a lot of fun. Finally, we have Marshadow Aggro. This is another deck that I just made up by myself, and I think it's very gimmicky, but also a lot of fun. I've played a few games with it already, and it's already won me some games in pretty decisive fashion. You know, it's pretty solid against Pikachu EX, unsurprisingly. Really bad against Mewtwo EX, unsurprisingly, but I've won against Pikachu decks. I've won against some non-Mewtwo, non-Pikachu decks as well, so this deck is fun, and it's called aggro because it's very aggressive. The goal is to just get off bursts of damage very quickly, and your Pokemon are not surviving for long. So the games are over. You either win or lose very quickly. So the core of the deck is Marshadow, which is a new card, 80 HP, which is not very high, and it has Revenge. So 40 damage for 2 energy. That's not great. However, if your Pokemon was knocked out during the opponent's last turn, if they attacked it and knocked it out, this attack does 60 more damage. So this attack does 100 damage if one of your Pokemon was knocked out, which explains why we're playing stuff like Farfetch'd and Mankey. So Mankey, of course, deals 30 damage for 1 energy, which is pretty decent, but it deals 10 to itself. This is promo Mankey specifically from the previous set. And then it evolves into Primeape. Primeape, if it has damage on it, it does 100 damage. So again, the goal is to do just large chunks of damage to the enemy, maybe knock them out before they're able to set up, and then if they ever knock out your Pokemon, you go into your Marshadow and definitely get the kill on them. We've got the 2 copies of Farfetch'd. Farfetch'd is a Pokemon that I think got a lot of play in the beginning of the format, like when the game first came out. And then lately it does not see very much play, but Farfetch'd is kind of perfect with Marshadow because it does a lot of damage for little investment, and then it has such low HP, so it dies very quickly. So you can kind of, if you start with a Farfetch'd, I think the ideal start is like a Farfetch'd, start doing 40 to them, and then once Farfetch'd dies, you go into Marshadow. The last Pokemon, I wanted to have at least one more basic in the deck. The last Pokemon is kind of a weird one. Honestly, I haven't really gotten to do much with it yet. I kind of think that something like Kangaskhan or even possibly the new Tauros could be played in this deck instead of Eevee. But the Eevee, it's funny that we have Eevee with no evolutions, but this Eevee is really funny. It's capable of doing a ton of damage, but it's extremely volatile. It's extremely luck-based. So you flip a coin until you get tails, and it does 20 damage for each head. So it's reminiscent of Misty, it's reminiscent of Lickitung, and for just 1 energy, it's possible you could do over 100 damage for a single energy from this Eevee. Obviously, that's extremely unlikely to happen, but I'm sure you've seen those horror stories of an opponent or a person playing against a Misty opponent and them getting like 5 heads with Misty. So if that can happen, you can get some kills with this Eevee. Again, I think it's too cute, both literally and I think it's too like unserious, so you can swap this Eevee for something else if you want, but it's just fun to say like, oh, I got a kill with this little Eevee, and then of course Eevee dies quickly as well, and then that lets you go into Marshadow. Rest of the Pokemon in the deck, rest of the cards in the deck, you know, double Pokeball, double Research. We have double Giovanni, which also makes sense because we're already doing big chunks of damage. Giovanni lets you get those extra kills, just lets you get that extra burst of damage. It helps, you know, maybe mitigate an opponent's potions or something like that, which is cool. Sabrina's good in the deck as well because we're doing a lot of damage. You know, you might weaken things over the course of the game, and then, you know, later on they switch into something with a lot of HP. You can maybe Sabrina right back into it. There's a new item, I think it's called Pokeflute, which puts a basic Pokemon from their discard pile onto their bench, which is also really good with Sabrina. That could also possibly be good in this deck. Like if you knock out a really weak Pokemon early, then maybe you can, you know, bring it back and then knock it out again, which could be really good. And then we have Potion, which I'm not really sure about. You know, Potion is a card that I'm not super certain about in this deck. It is possible that you could, you know, swap that for something else. Same with Blue. You know, Blue is very similar as well. I know it looks weird to have Potion and Blue in a deck that cares about your Pokemon dying, but, you know, sometimes you just need that extra survivability. finally, we have X Speed. I know I'm kind of going out of order here, but we have X Speed as well, which is perfect in this deck because every Pokemon we have here has just one retreat cost. So an ideal scenario is maybe you have your Pokemon knocked out, you go into Marshadow, get the kill, and then they go into something else, and then now your revenge is only doing 40. So in that case, you could X Speed into something else, and then maybe they'll knock that thing out, and you go right back into Marshadow and get the kill. So that's really cool. X Speed works perfectly in the deck. I think if you're going to play this deck, you definitely should play 2 X Speeds, and then 2 Pokeball, 2 Research, and then everything else is up to you. 2 Giovanni's as well, I would say. And then also Sabrina's looking nice. Anyways, yeah, this is the deck. This is the Marshadow Aggro deck. Honestly, this is probably my favorite of the 3 decks just because it feels like I made it myself, but it also feels pretty strong. And the other 2, you know, Druddigon feels super gimmicky, although it is a lot of fun. And then Celebi EX is just, it's going to be OP. So, you know, I don't want to play too much of that. If I'm being honest, I actually don't even own 2 copies of Celebi just yet. So it's fine. I don't plan on playing that deck for a while anyways. But I have played this deck and the Druddigon deck, and they are both awesome. So those are my 3 decks for the new format. I might make another video if you're interested, if this video does well, or if you like the video, if you enjoy it. I might do a new video talking about like maybe some changes to already existing decks. Like I said, there's a lot of cool Pokemon. There's a new Weezing. There's, you know, Salazzle has poison. I'm thinking of a Weezing Salazzle deck. Obviously, there's a few Pokemon that work really well with Misty, so there's a lot to talk about with this new set, and I'm super excited. So please leave a like, please subscribe for more Pokemon content, Pokemon TCG Pocket, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, we do it all here. And let me know in the comments which of these decks is your favorite. Also, let me know what changes you would make to the decks that I made. I don't consider myself to be a great deck builder, but I do have fun with it. So let me know in the comments what you think. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.